And here we go. So, hi everyone. I'm not Daniel, I'm Milan. I'm one of the two presidents of Intersection Group. But I am super happy today to have Daniel Gona with me, who already came to our very first conference in Paris in 2014. So it's a long time ago. And I would say has been almost regular since then. He's also now a co-author, tool developer, and speaker, an expert on strategy. Wolfgang, who was already mentioned in the chat, who sometimes controls our music selection, but not today. He calls Daniel a walking strategy wiki. Daniel works as a consultant with corporate and institutional clients. His talk about his work with the Zurich University of the Arts at our Rome conference was very appreciated, as was his session on strategy with Jean-Sébastien Daigle last year. So I'm super happy to have him present today. I just get a bit of the housekeeping out of the way. So this is part of a webinar series by Intersection Group. We are a not-for-profit association. We publish EDGY, which Daniel will talk about today also in the context of strategy, and open source toolset and language to deal with enterprise challenges. We organize a community and global events. We have local communities growing in all around the world. Actually, you see all the little flags there. And we also publish not just EDGY as an open source toolkit, but also books like our patterns book and Intersection, where like the name comes from. Yeah, if you just switch to the next slide, Daniel. I just want to invite everyone, if you like EDGY and you want to get familiar with it and you want to learn how to use it, to join our summer school. It's the 11th cohort of the Intersection Academy that will start in about a month, 4 weeks online, and you learn how to use enterprise facets and elements. Yeah, and next slide, please. Yes, we already mentioned Intersection Conference, so our next one is a special one because it's the very first time we jump across the pond. So we will be in Montreal this year in early October. Our 12th edition, 3 days, a bit of EDGY, but also more general enterprise design, turning ideas into impactful enterprises beyond the spark is our theme this year. And also the call for contributions is still open for, I think, another 2 weeks. So if you have something to present and if you like what you see today, please consider submitting a talk. Yeah, we usually get a crowd from all around the world. And Montreal is a great city, so looking forward to that. And next slide. I think that's it. So Daniel, please take it away.
Thank you, Milan. Very warm welcome from my side. Before we get into the content, I would like to invite you to a quick check-in. And if technology permits, then you can do that on the survey page of this webinar. The leading questions are, what is your knowledge of EDGY? Are you still new? Are you already certified? Or are you even teaching? I'm a bit curious how today's audience is combined, so I can maybe even adjust a bit and try to not to get too much on the surface or too much in depth. And if you have seen one of the recent webinars about the enterprise profile, very interesting one, or the affinities from GS, please also do answer what your enterprise profile is. Do you have affinity with the one or the other facet? I leave the survey open for 1 or 2 more minutes. But I also want to say Happy World Book Day, everyone. Today is World Book Day, and it's been a minute since I stumbled about Milan's book Intersection. For those who have not read it, I can highly recommend it. And yeah, it's probably more than a decade. And since then, technological advances and also the increasingly complex environment, it changed how we managed enterprises. And the old way, where only a few decide really quickly and then make a big plan and then task their execution and leave the many with the mess of their decisions, it's a thing of the past. Or is it? Today we have easy access to outstanding tools like EDGY and the new way of deeply understanding challenges, of co-creating possibilities, of testing and learning from our execution to continuously improve decisions, as it's described in the Intersection book, and as it's also constantly being advocated by top voices in strategic management, like, for example, Roger Martin. Well, still, the challenges of strategic management prevail. So what could we do about that? I would like to thank you for sharing your check-in. Myself, I'm probably located in the identity facet. So my affinity is with the identity, I guess. And my role, I am an independent consultant. So my name is Daniel Gona. Thank you for the very kind introduction, Milan. The one thing that he probably did not tell you, I'm also an ultra cyclist when I'm not working on strategy. The background for this talk, it's mostly from my own praxis, using EDGY in various roles in strategic management in various enterprises, and also by multiplying it with other experts of our Intersection community in the StratEDGY work group, in discussions at the conference. It's a very lively community, and I will wholeheartedly invite you to join our Slack if you have not done that yet. Today I will share an easy first step, how to get started with strategic management in EDGY, how you could strategize with EDGY using super simple maps, and also give a bit of an insight how you could deliver strategy sustainably. Let me start with a few foundations so we can align our perspectives and have a bit of a common ground. What am I talking about if I say strategic management? Well, basically, as you know, probably if you read Mintzberg, every company, every enterprise has a strategy. Yet sometimes we only see the strategy when we are looking back on the decisions that we made. Oh, cool, this is where I wanted to be. An emergent strategy, it's only visible in the rear mirror. Preferably, we make purposeful decisions. This is where we want to be. The ongoing activity of deliberate strategies, this is what we know as strategic management. One could say, without getting too academic, there is a consensus that strategic management is a structured and ongoing process of analyzing the enterprise and its environment, of formulating sustainable strategies, implementing, evaluating, and adjusting them, all with the aim of securing and sustaining enterprise purposes. So we want to achieve and sustain intended outcomes, and we make informed decisions. Okay, but if you're in strategic management, what do you actually do? And what are your main pains doing that? I would again like to invite you for a quick poll. About the top tasks regarding strategic management. And what do you think, or what do you experience? What are the main pains if you do strategy, if you do strategic management? So if you look for consensus on the typical tasks, the top tasks of strategic management, most of the time you find 3 typical tasks. You define aspirations as foundation for strategic decisions. You formulate and communicate choices to inspire and focus execution. And you evaluate outcomes and iterate choices. While doing so, you experience, of course, different challenges. There is usually quite some dynamics in your environment and in your organization. And this is what makes informed and sustainable decisions very difficult. Intangible assets and products, as well as the global competition, makes it quite difficult to find long-term competitive advantages. Same, there are dependencies on legacy systems, and that make a quick and agile change quite difficult. There is this dematerialization trend that we see, especially with more and more use of agentic systems. One of the main pains are the gaps of balancing the tasks from your various stakeholders. There are sometimes conflicting top tasks when you pursue a coherent strategy, and this requires sophisticated negotiations and sometimes uncomfortable choices. For example, one of your stakeholders might want to earn profit. Another one might want to save the world. How do you balance this? So there might be an alignment gap. Also, if you decide on a direction and some people may resist due to habit or perceived threats to the status. So they are not aligned with your decisions, with your direction. And if you look at the execution, many enterprises are lost in translation between the various facets of the enterprise. Research suggests it's about 60 to 90% of strategies that fail during the implementation. So this could be a really hard pain as well. I'm quite curious what pains you find. So we'll end the voting and let's see if we can see the results. Okay, this seems not to work as expected. I will come back to that later and we can see if we can have a formal discussion, informal discussion afterwards. So probably you wondered what are those funny, colorful symbols that are inserted in the simple sentences. Well, these are edgy elements. And for those of you who answered, I know edgy quite well, or I even a certified practitioner, you will know this picture. EDGY is a very simple yet super rich language for people from various backgrounds, so they can relate to and use and engage co-creation. It consists of a connected set of components, the facets of identity, architecture, and experience, some enterprise elements, base elements would be outcome, activity, and objects, and the visual representations. EDGY is open source, everybody can use it. And a very good starting point to dive deeper into this is enterprise.design, the website where EDGY is documented. I have a final poll for you because I'm quite curious what, in your opinions, are the relevant elements of EDGY for strategy? Is it maybe the identity facet? Or is it the outcomes? Or is it about capabilities? Or maybe are even more elements relevant? Okay, I can see there's quite a few people who know what they do. And you're all right. I'm quite sure about the identity and also about the outcomes and also probably about capabilities and probably about all of them. For example, we might have a top task, and the top task is in the experience facet. It's an ambition of a person or of a group of shareholders. For example, we want to make money. And then we might have purpose, a winning aspiration. We want to turn water into wine, which would be in the identity facet and then is also an outcome element. We might have a playing field, a flourishing new market, let's say India. It's a great choice, and we will need some content for this. And also we would need to figure out how to win, how to fill old wine in new bottles. We will do this with branding via the experience in our channels that we can only see if we follow our journeys. So there's of course some must-have capabilities in our architecture, marketing, also wine production. And somehow we need to enable this with some management systems in our organization with processes. I guess you get the gist of it. Probably many, if not all, of the elements of EDGY are somewhat relevant to strategic management. In my opinion, EDGY is quite awesome. It's awesome because you can close gaps with a connecting language. If some of my colleagues talk business, they talk about money, they talk about customer engagement, and some other of my colleagues talk about capabilities and IT systems. They have different languages, but EDGY can close this gap with a connecting language. It can help making better informed decisions because I can see the relationships between the elements and the facets and dive deeper into knowledge that might be relevant for decision making. And we can validate strategic scenarios before we execute it. If we draw a map and think about how things are connected, or even go so far to make a digital twin, we can save a lot of pain starting with execution before we know what strategic scenarios are actually feasible and valuable. Sounds awesome, right? So let me share some practice from earlier mandates and from our work in the intersection work group. What could be an easy first step? How might we explore the logic of the existing, emerging or deliberate strategy? And how might we make this good enough to compel us to make a set of choices where to go? And how might we solve our enterprise's most pressing problems? In Switzerland, we would say, let's create a Auslegeordnung. Let's map strategy. We can start super simple by creating a shared aspiration. We make our outcomes explicit. This could be the current state. If we look back on the emerging strategy, how did we decide? This could also be deliberate when we look at the future state where we want to go. The more important part is that we start a conversation. We could start the conversation by asking us questions. Why are we doing this? What are our guiding decisions? What is it that we look at when we ask, should we buy this or buy that? Should we engage in this or in that? Should we serve this task or the other? And we can ask, what are actually the benchmark tasks that we are trying to solve? What do our customers really want? Our shareholders really want? What are we trying to solve for them? Do we solve for them a sustainable income, or do we solve for them quick profits? Do we solve for them having fun driving, or do we solve for them getting from A to B? And how do we serve these tasks? How do we realize them? Do we have distinctive capabilities? How we do this? How we realize our decisions? Let me give you an example. Let's say we are a milkshake enterprise. So we might have a task from one of our major stakeholders who fronted up a lot of money. And his task is he wants to be able to treat himself by having financial security. We might also have another task. And this is from our customer base. They want to be able to treat themselves by having healthy snacks. So we might have a capability, and this capability is partner management. So we treat ourselves to not doing everything our own. We source it. I think you find a pattern in this. We might have a shared purpose of treating ourselves. We could also form it into a story that is easier to communicate, something like sweeten your life. Okay, so if we form this purpose of treating ourselves into a story, sweeten your life, we probably also have another capability, marketing. So you see, with this simple map, and you can make an easy first step and make explicit what outcomes you're pursuing, what purpose, what's motivating you, why are you doing this, what tasks, what are you trying to solve, and what distinctive capabilities, how you do it to realize this. You probably heard about enterprise patterns. If not, please have a look at the website enterprise.design. You find a lot of super interesting patterns there. And the ones you typically use in such first steps is sharing pre-existing wisdom. You talk together in a safe negotiation space, and you share an enterprise vision. All right, so this would be an easy first step. Have a shared ambition, know where to go, what is guiding you. But how do you go deeper? How do you strategize with EDGY? Let's explore together how you could make informed decisions and achieve intended outcomes with super simple maps. So we probably use strategy most of the time in terms of making choices. And in order to make choices, there are a lot of great patterns and methods that you could use. I would like to use one of them that helped me a lot in my practice, and it's developed by Roger Martin. It's called the strategic choice cascade. It's a great pattern for strategy development. And it goes a little bit like this. You decide on a winning aspiration, your first choice, more or less what we just did. Sweeten your life. You decide then where to play out this winning aspiration. What is your market? What are the tasks that you serve? Which products do you use? You find a way that you have an unfair or at least competitive advantage, how you win. Of course, you must have capabilities in order to realize this. And last not least, you need enabling management systems and organization and processes to do that. So this would be the activity flow of your choices. And we can use EDGY to figure out what elements of your enterprise are actually relevant for these decisions, to inform them to make proper decisions. We can look at the outcome elements, we can look at the activities, and we can look at the objects. For example, sweeten your life would be a purpose. Where we play for the tasks of our consumers to get energy and to save time. How do we serve this with our product, with milkshakes? And where do we serve this? In a certain channel on train stations. And how do we win? We have an image of making this super easy. So what do we need to do this? Good marketing, of course, but also partner management in order to build the machines that sell them, to create the milkshakes, and for many other things. How do we do this? We have a super lean management system because we are aligned on our purpose. This makes it easy to figure out what decisions to make and which not. Of course, we also use feedback loops. It's a process that we have implemented to enable quick learning. And we have kind of a loose coupling, so our partners can do what they do best without too much oversight. Maybe over time things change. And we need to adopt this. And we figure out that there is new tasks to solve besides energy and time. People also want a new product, vegan shakes. So we have to adopt maybe. And we figure out, okay, we should have a new capability, consumer insights. What do they really want? Because it seems they want some new things sometimes. And we figure out it's not about energy and time only, it's also about health. So we reposition our brand. We are sciencey, we are healthy. And we figure out that our product has a new ingredient, protein, very healthy. So we make now products that are protein shakes. And then we figure out there's a new top task for our customers. It's being sociable. It's not only about having energy that is healthy quickly, but also sharing this with others, sharing your lifestyle. So we figure there is a new thing, Ube. It's basically an ingredient that colors your product purple, and it's awesome to share it on social media. It looks beautiful, makes your experience very sociable. So now our brand becomes chic. We are on trend. You can see by going through this simple system, this simple map, you can make better informed decisions and you see the relations, how things work together. If we look at this map a little bit more abstract, you basically make your strategy development by mapping on the x-axis your activity flow. In this case, we lean on the strategic choice cascade pattern. And on the y-axis, we look at our relevant elements. And then we can even focus by tagging the status. Maybe one of the elements is not on track anymore and we need to further develop it. We can see this with the yellow status, with the labels that we apply. And then we could zoom in and see, okay, what is it really about this task, and go into a different, more detailed map. In this way, we can close gaps and better inform the decisions and evaluate our scenarios. But it's, of course, not only about developing strategy, it's also about achieving the intended outcomes. And this we could do with a similar, quite simple map. We could start by looking on the time horizons. You probably know the horizons model. It's quite simple. Do we do something now? Do we do something next? Or do we do it later? 3 horizons. They're a bit fluid. Next could be tomorrow, could also be in a year. Later could be in 10 years, but could also be tomorrow, depending on the dynamic. And we can list on the other axis, what are the life cycle stages of the activities that we perform, of the outcomes that we want to achieve. Is it something we did not do yet that we need to start, something new, an innovation? Is it something that we have but might need to change, for example, the ingredients of our milkshake, so we can offer vegan shakes and not milkshakes only? Is it something that we want to sustain? For example, our channel of the train stations. It's a fabulous channel and we want to sustain it. We want to make sure that we can be present in this channel. Or is it something that will retire? For example, milkshakes. We only offer vegan shakes in the future. So again, we can map all the elements that might be relevant, and we can also label them to see what capacity do we want to invest in this? Do we want to invest capacity now to start a new purpose, or to retire an old product? Or do we invest capacity maybe later, maybe next year, to develop one of our capabilities? So this is basically how you can, with super simple maps, strategize with EDGY. Of course, you want to deliver this strategy sustainably. And with sustainably, I'm mostly talking about closing the loop. If we have the activity of development and execution, we inform our execution with communication, of course. And we also inform the development by communicating what happens in the execution. So it's kind of a loop. And the quicker we close this loop, the quicker we know if we went in the wrong direction and can adjust. We can inform our development decisions by closing the loop, and closing the loop both with lagging and leading indicators. So we can look at what is actually the performance, but we can also look at how far away from reaching our goals are we. Of course, measuring outcomes when we realize our decisions is not the only way of closing the loop. In both directions, when we want to anchor our strategy from the development to the execution, to guide the decisions of the execution, we share stories. We share stories how to center and balance our enterprise. We share stories how we do things here. And it helps us to decide on clear purposes that we can align to create this bounded opportunity set, to set focus, what execution and action to pursue and what not. And we also reduce communication overhead with this, because if we have clear stories, we do not need to explain them too much. Basically, we want a stable core where people know where to go with a few variable elements. And we want to give feedback on the reality. So we share stories, not only top down, but of course bottom up. Why did we do the execution like this? Maybe differently than planned. This might be quite relevant to understand and make a better informed decision in the future. And if we talk about sustainability, it's of course not only about good decisions that last for a longer time, a sustainable competitive advantage, but it's also about balancing capacity. It's about sustaining our enterprise. This is actually a major challenge when we want to make strategy stick. Should we focus on investing, or should we focus on exploiting, run and maintain? This is something that we have in every day. And separating the capacity where possible in execution between these operational assets, what we need to run our business, and our change capabilities, what we need to develop new things, this can really help. And I would like to recommend have a look at the beautiful EDGY capability modeling guidelines. They dive deeper on exactly this topic. Yet we still have shared capabilities, and they are typically scared. And there's also approaches to solving this One of them is to allocate your strategic capacity by deciding where you want to go up front. If you want to deliver strategy sustainably, there are 3 enterprise design patterns that really help. Again, it's the safe negotiation space. This means that you openly share stories and do not judge for telling what is, but rather listen and understand in order to inform your decisions. It's also about moments in time, because things that might be true now might not be true in the future. And of course, you do want to have evidence. The more evidence, the better you measure your outcomes. Well, this is the gist about how to make better decisions with EDGY. And I hope this sparked some ideas, and I would like to invite you to continue this conversation after the webinar. And please feel free to contact me also in the chat, in the Slack chat. I'm very happy to further this discussion. So with this, I would like to stop the recording and maybe open a Q&A or closing remarks, because I'm super curious how you would make strategy accessible with EDGY.